Hey everyone, welcome to the UFO Hub livestream. Today is open lines, and I hope that some of you will have a chance to call in and share some of your stories. You can join the Telegram group, which is also casting a voice only if for those that want to listen. Also, using Telegram is where you can talk to later on Sally directly to give your name and birthday so that she can give you a quick numerology reading. And so, just real quick about Telegram. If you don't have it, you can download it on your phone or the computer. The link for the UFO Hub Telegram group is in the description below, and simply join it. You'll see a voice chat going on right now, and you can partake. Raise your hand, and you should be able to be in my queue. So, basically, for the first. Depends on how many people we have come in to submit their name and number. Sally asked her to come on. We didn't work out last week, but she came back this week. I'm very happy about that. She will just do some quick readings for everybody. All the links and app links and booking links are in the description below for Sally. So please keep in mind the reading you're getting is just very short for just kind of lightheartedness, for fun, for us to do, and especially since she's always so accurate, it amazes people, and I'd love to at least give the opportunity for some of you who haven't had a reading to just kind of get a taste for what that is like. So anyway, but if you want more, Sally is available, and you can simply just go to her website to get or book a appointment with her. So remember, with every speaker and every guest I always have on, all their links will always be in the description below. And so we have Arslana already in the chat. Welcome. And so some in Telegram as well. So let's get started. We'll have Sally get going, and she'll do some readings for everybody. And depends on how well it goes. She might be on maybe just for 10, 15 minutes, maybe a little longer. It depends. But again, this is just supposed to be short and quick. All right, let me bring you in, Sally. Thanks for being on. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad. Me too. I'm glad we're able to work this out because I had some difficulties, or we both had some difficulties with Skype, and I've actually for the first time used the room option, or create a chat room and then sending the link is similar to what Zoom is doing, I guess. So it worked out this way. So I'm glad you're here. So Sally, I'll start out with the first person. Her name is. She was not able to watch now because I believe she lives in Portugal, but she had sent some information about herself earlier to me. Her name is Carla, spelled Carla.
Okay.
And her date of birth is 12/4, so December 4th, 1979.
Okay. Well, happy birthday to her, because it's coming up in 3 days. Okay. So this is a very, very conscientious, responsible, caring, loving individual, and she can be very forthright. She can tell people what she thinks pretty much off the top of her head on occasion, but she is also, as I said, caring and kind. She would really care about animals and the earth and her family and friends. She'd be one of the best friends anybody could have, because she will show up, and regardless of what the circumstances is, she would be there for her friends and family members. And she's, as an employee, she would be conscientious, responsible, dedicated, loyal, and again, show up on time and do what she says she'll do. And she could have her own business and do extremely well in that. It should be a service business if she did have it, because she's very service oriented. She's probably her father's favorite child. That's because the 12-month child many times is the favorite child of the parent of the opposite sex. And so that's why I throw that out there. It may not be, but it could be. And I can see how she could be a favorite child of either of her parents. So wouldn't matter really. So 12, 13. She was shy in school, I would say, in her early years, and would have been very conscientious again, and just put her her head in the books and gotten, and which gave her very good grades, I would say. Does she identify, or can they answer back?
No, she's not live with us right now. She's
Oh, okay.
in Portugal, I believe, but she will get that
Oh,
reading because sometimes I can't do it for everybody. But some people that they send me direct messages and ask politely if I could do this. I was like, sure, why not? I can understand because I think it's maybe what 2, 3 a.m. now there. But although we have some people watching that I know are up during that time in Europe, so I guess to each their own. So the next person I have is Sandra, Sandra, and the birth date is August 27th, 1980.
okay.
Oh, just real quick,
So
I'm sorry to
she,
interrupt. For those still watching, I had forgot to mention, it's right now it's you guys aren't chatting as much, or it's not that busy, so I can pick it up. But usually, if you guys can have a use 3 asterisks before your name and a birth date, or before the question in general in chat, that would help me out a great deal. I'm sorry, Sally, please go ahead.
okay. Well, what I can see is that that Sandra is an extraordinarily conscientious individual. The full edition of her birth date is an 8, reduces to the number 8, which is called the number of the exemplar, somebody who sets the example for others. It's also called the teacher of teachers. It's also called the number of the chairman of the board. So she might even make it there. She has that same type of number in the first phase of her life as well, which she would have now with her schoolwork and so on. So she would be someone who does not like to make an error at anything that she does. She's like top of the line, and I would say that she gets probably either straight A's or very close to that, or whatever they're called. And I guess she is American. And also, she's born on the 27th, which is it's called the number of the universal humanitarian. So she would have tremendous humanitarian sensibilities, along with the 8, which is just cannot help but help other people in some way that need help. They just can't walk past someone that needs some kind of help and see if they can't help them. Same with animals. So they're very, I mean, here again, she's just the top of the line as far as a human being is concerned. She could be a little controlling on occasion, but it's only because she wants to make sure things are right. She has an eye for quality. She has the buyer's eye, as a matter of fact. So she would have very, very good taste in clothing or anything, even men, hopefully. And I think that, she has a strong personality in some ways because of her name, the S and the A, which is what I have with Sally. It means that she will be forthright when she needs to say something, not quite as much as I was, but certainly because she has the 8s, which are so classy. The 8 is a very, very classy number. And I would imagine she would agree with me with most everything I've said.
All right, thank you for that. The next person I have is Joan. It's a Joan, and that's September 12th, 1953.
Okay. So she's double 3s. So, well, the 12 reduces down to a 3, but the 12 is a number of people who tend to sacrifice their own needs for the sake of others. And many times that involves children. I mean, they will be very conscientious and responsible with children. She has a kind of childlike nature herself. She would have a very creative nature. And that goes along with the childlike nature, because it's just knowing how to put things together that are exciting and, have some kind of creativity to them, and even some kind of joy. The full edition of her birth date being a 3 is also, so having the 12 being a 3 too, she really should be very, very creative in some way, even verbally, singing, orating, writing, but also painting, and just about any area of creativity, I would say. and also be a grand teacher. I mean, if she ever wanted to be a teacher, I mean, she's older, she may have been, but the point is that she would have been great with kids because that's what these numbers are. And even in the first phase of life, she's an optimist. She's an eternal optimist. So even when things aren't going so well for her, she's not going to get down like the average person, because the 3 is the number of optimism and even euphoria in a way, just really feeling happy a lot of the time. And just as far as her names, see, that's a 4. So she has the 4 as her name. And the 4, that's a 13-4. So she's, she can speak her mind. I would say that she would be less inclined to do that than the other 2 that I read, but she will find a way to do that politely, I would say. Certainly Sandra too would do that. So that's what I see here for the quick read.
Oh, great. Thank you. I have Abby. It's ABBIE.
Okay.
And it's 11. So November 3rd, 1977.
Okay. So she has an 11 destiny. I want to make sure here. So 27. And yeah, she has an 11 destiny. So she has a destiny number, which is the full edition of the birth date. That is one that pulls people with problems into her atmosphere or toward her. She can be a wonderful counselor. She can be a very intuitive, highly intuitive, and very accurate with her intuition. She is also, one who can verbalize very well to help people as well. I mean, she's the type of person, if she sits down on a park bench and by herself, she's going to have somebody come along and sit down next to her. I used to call this number the pigeon on statues number, because people will come up and just unload on people with her numbers, because she's kind of like, because we're kind of all made of energy. Her energy is very high, very elevated, if you want. That's a better word for it, I think. It's that people can sense that she's someone that they can open up to and tell their problems to. And she might have scratched her head with that on occasion. Why does everybody tell me their problems? Because she has that energy. It is called the number of the counselor, the minister, the caretaker of the earth, even in a way, but it's also extremely highly intuitive. So if she ever wanted to do something in the esoteric field, she would do very, very well with that. And her first name, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, her first name is a 10, so that gives her a strong kind of strong personality toward the outside world, but at the same time, the 0 associated with any number means divine guidance, divine inspiration, and divine protection. So she would be a soft 1. In other words, the 1 is a very powerful number in numerology, the most powerful, I would say, as far as just taking the bull by the horns and running with it. But hers has the 10, so she's a soft 1, meaning that very approachable.
Great, thank you. Sally, what do you say, 2 more? Would that be okay with you?
Sure. Yeah, I
Awesome.
could go for a long time, but it's up, go ahead.
The next one is Beth,
Okay.
Beth, and it's June 3rd, 1965.
Okay. Okay, she has double 3s as well. So as the one lady that was before, not just before, but before her. And the 3s, again, are extremely creative. And also, since she's a Gemini, she probably is very creative in some manner. She would be very good with children also. And artistic, a very good writer. Her name is an 8, so she makes sure that she crosses all her T's and dots all of her I's. She could be very fastidious, everything in its place and a place for everything. Sometimes people with the more artistic orientation are not that neat, but if she happens to be more artistic, she's more on the left brain oriented side, which many scientists have the 3s. Many of the greatest scientists have 3s too. So there's both sides that the 3 can go. And again, with children, I think she would be a great mom. She would really love being a mom, also being born in the June month, because they do tend to really care about their children. I mean, all parents care about their children, but it's just that they have the 6, and the 6 is kind of the home humanitarian kind of number. So that's pretty much what I see here.
Great, thank you. I have one more person, one more, but then I usually always try to encourage people to join Telegram. So somebody also raised their hands on Telegram. So it turned another 2 questions. Is that okay? So one in chat
Sure.
and one in Telegram, and then I promise that'll be it.
Okay. Hey, I'm just grateful to be on the program, honestly.
Well, no,
Very
I'm
nice.
grateful you're doing this for all of us, so certainly appreciate it. So the next person is Alba, ALBA,
Mhm.
and it's 8/12/68.
Okay, so 6, 9. So she's comparable to another lady that I had above, only she's comparable to the ladies I've had, because she has the 3 with the number 12, 1 and 2 making 3, as her personality number. And it is the 12, which is sacrificing her own needs for the sake of others many times. And she would certainly do that, because she also has the 8 as her destiny number. Let's see, it's a 36, so it's a 40, I think it's a 44/8. So very, very conscientious, hardworking, dedicated, loyal, very loyal friends, very loyal to family. Also very sharp, I mean, just as far as mathematically, the 8 many times are great mathematicians, and things that call for research and analysis. And also they have the buyer's eye, as I said. She can ferret out the only valuable thing in a garage sale, for instance. Her eyes would be able to find that one thing that really has some kind of value. And very good with friends. Can be a little bit controlling, maybe. She's a Leo too, so just a little controlling, but still it's all for the better for others, because usually she has others in mind when she's doing that, to make things better for them, because they're not takers. The female numbers are 4, 2, 4, 6, and 8. So when there's female numbers, they're always nurturing in nature, regardless of whether they're with a man or a woman. And so we've had a couple of people, we've had a number of them with the female-oriented numbers. And let's see, her first name is 5, 6, 7. So it's a 7. So that's the number of the genius. So I'll give that to her, because she would put the effort forth to take herself there too. So that's what I see with Alba.
Great, thank you. Nathan, you are unmuted on my end. Unmute yourself on yours, and please give us your name and birthday.
Hello, Anand and Sally. Actually, I'm sitting here with my mother and wife, and they would like theirs done, if that's okay.
If Sally is okay with
Sure.
that, it's all up to her.
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. So my wife's name is Jessica, and her birthday is September 14th, 1994.
Okay, let me do her first. So 6, 7, 8, 3. Her first name is a 3. It's not the full name. In numerology, I usually have to have the full name, but the first name is very significant. It's said to be the name that the spirit actually chooses for themselves. regardless of how much the parents and relatives and everybody try to figure out what they're going to call the individual. So she asked for that name. Now, this is a very strong woman, very strong. I'm sure you know that, Nathan.
Yeah.
If she doesn't want to do something that she doesn't want to do, she ain't doing it. But she can also be very, very creative also with this. It is the number of the innovator, the trailblazer, the leader, very much a leadership oriented number. She's very quick on the uptake. She has the 14-5, which I call the bada boom, bada bang number. I happen to be born on August 14th, so I am a bada boom, bada bang person. Just get it done fast. That's what I mean by that. And she has the she has the 3 as her name. So she's very, I call that the chatty Cathy number, but she's not necessarily a chatty Cathy, because the 1 holds their cards pretty close to their chest, because they like to observe people before they're going to put a lot out there to them. And she would be the best at what she does if she likes to do it. She's going to be one of the best. She could be a grand athlete. She could be a wonderful entrepreneur. She has the ability very much to be an entrepreneur with these numbers. So does she agree?
I see her shaking her head up and down. Yes. Yeah, we all agree. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, very good.
I'm afraid to hear
What are you guys having a party over there?
My mom's name is just for
having dinner.
Just dinner, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Regular dinner, and we decided, and
We're
we
listening.
cued into your show, yeah. Okay, my mom's name. Oh, so do you need the full name? Is it better, or just her first name?
Well, the full name would take me a little bit. It would be better to have that, but the first name's pretty significant. Like, I can see with my own name, Sally, how much I represent the number that comes from that name. So it's pretty significant too. So it's just a little faster to just do the first name at first here.
Okay.
And the
so
birthday.
Her name is Bernadette. Yeah, Bernadette, and it's February 16th, 1953.
53, did you say?
Yes.
53. Okay, so 50.
53,
Okay.
right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
53. Yep.
Two.
Okay.
5225. Just 1 second. That's a long first name. That would be so 7 and 7 is 5, and 5 is 1, is 6, and 7 is 4. Okay. So Bernadette is brainy. She's born on the 16th. Again, 1 and 6 making 7. The genius. So I think you had, well, so is the 1. So whoever I had that, I think Jessica. Yeah, that they're very comparable. I call them the renegade numbers, the 1, the 4, and the 7, because they're people who can think out of the box and they can come up with their own stuff. They don't have to follow everybody like minions. And also the full edition of her birth date is a 9. So that's the universal humanitarian number. It is the number of aristocracy and gentility as well. And I'm sure she's presented herself in that way many, many times in her life, because that's just a natural thing with people with 9s. They come in, it's kind of a compilation of all the numbers. So you can adapt to all different types of people and be very socially graceful and all of that kind of thing. I can tell you what your big red button is. If somebody that you'd push, if somebody treats you with disrespect that you know you don't deserve, that's what gets people with 9s, because otherwise they're very giving, very, Mother Teresa had a 9 destiny. So that's what you're looking at here. You have a Mother Teresa in your midst with brains. Well, I'm sure Mother Teresa had brains too. But anyway, and her first name is a 4. So the 4 means that at times, because you start with the B in your name, the B is ruled by the 2. So you're careful about not saying something that you feel is going to really set somebody off. But having the 4 as the addition of the full name, for those that know you well, you might be able to, put something out there pretty brazenly on occasion, because the 4 is very forthright and likes to speak its truth. So do you identify?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
You're very
right.
welcome. What
Well,
about, go ahead.
you very
Thank
much,
you,
Sally.
guys. You guys enjoy your dinner. All right. So Sally, thank you very much. And so wanted to just go over some things real quick with you, because I did. I don't know if I did. I think I did. You also have a an app for the iPhone, don't you? Can you maybe? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Can you tell us just a little bit about it?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's a compatibility app. It will help you to analyze. I mean, I tell people, if there's 8 levels to the app, and a star comes up and shows you what your numbers are and tells you all about yourself, tells you much more than what I'm able to do right here. And the star is all different colors, because Pythagoras, who was the father of numerology in the Western world, gave all the numbers colors. And so that's what it's made of. Whatever numbers you have is the color that comes up with in the star. And then you can put somebody else's name in the app, and then compare it either for lovers, family members, or friends. And I tell people, if you are looking for a mate and you land in levels 7 or 8, even 6 is okay, but 7 or 8, if you land in 8, you get on your knees and propose. That's what I'm going to say. You won't meet anybody that's going to match you better than a level 8 in my app. But anyway, so it's a fun app. I mean, the people that have told me they love it. And they keep the names and birth dates of their friends in it, so they always know all their friends' birthdays. They can go in and check it out and see when their friends' birthdays are and so on. So that's another plus to it. And it's only $3.99, so it's doesn't break the bank.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that info, Sally. So again, Sally's website is sallysnumbers.com. And if the whole point, like I mentioned in the very beginning, this is just supposed to be a short reading for you to just get a taste of, how Sally does the readings. I know my wife and I, we got a like a whole life reading, which is a lot more in depth, and we just absolutely love it. And so a lot of you watching right now, if you would like to know more about whatever is coming down the pike for you, I would really recommend it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have Sally on as often as I have so far. It really is amazing, and when you find those good ones, of course, you always want to keep them, as they say. So again, sallysnumbers.com, and Sally, thank you very much. And I appreciate
Thank
you coming
so
back.
much, Dad.
Hopefully,
Thank
we
you
can
so
do this
much.
again. So
Okay, I'm with you any old time. Okay,
all right.
thank
Well,
you very much.
thank you. You take care, and yeah, we'll stay in touch.
And so how do I get out of this?
Oh, it's okay. I'll kick you out.
Okay, all
All
right.
right. Take care.
Okay.
All right. So that was Sally. Let me see here. Dun-dun-dun. Yeah, that was Sally, and I hope you take advantage, of getting a reading. If anything, just for entertainment. My wife and I would do this all the time, where we go and get readings, whether it would be tarot cards. Which reminds me, I'm gonna hopefully have a guest on, really good one too. That is just absolutely amazing, because she had 2 years given a reading to my wife before her and I met, and then after I got to know this tarot card reader, and her name is Justine Alessi. Then she basically did a card reading for me, and it was just it wasn't just she doesn't I don't know what the right term is. Like, she doesn't fluff you up. She'd tell you the truth. And the amazing part about this is that it's the accuracy. as always, because that's what we're all looking for. And when, like I was saying to Sally, when you find those good ones, you want to keep them. So when it comes to numerology, Sally is in my book. When it comes to tarot card reading, Justina Alessi. And then when it comes to psychic reading, is definitely Catherine Hughes. So between those three, having your life's chart planned out, if you're into this kind of thing, I mean, it is gold. So anyway, check it out on Sally's website, sallysnumbers.com, and I hope you get some exciting, exciting upcoming things for her to read for you. Okay. So anyway, this was supposed to be short. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody, and the readings weren't that in depth. So what I just encourage most of you, that if you have a story that you would like to share, this will be the time for you to log in and talk to me, because a lot of people want to talk and chat and share their stories, and I don't necessarily have all the time to get everyone scheduled. And even then, I try to do some background check and whatnot on the person coming in that I will be talking to. So this is the open lines where it will give you a chance to where you don't have to go through that process. This is simply you sharing your story, and it will be up to you to back up whatever it is that you're claiming. And for one, it's not to put you on the spot, but just to give you an opportunity to finally tell someone, tell the world, I guess, if you don't have anyone around you immediately that you can talk to about these different type of things, whether it would be ET related, ghosts, or whatever other metaphysical weird things that are happening to people. So yeah, see, Michael, I'm really sorry, or BC Mike, that we didn't get to this time, but I will write your name down and I'll ask you next time. Or you don't have to wait, and you can just simply go to Sally's website and get an in-depth reading right now, even more so than what people would get on the show. Let's see here. Yeah, there's not so much weird, not so many, I guess, I wouldn't call it necessarily a weird news, but it's definitely very coincidental that a lot of these CEOs, like Disney CEO is stepping down, Twitter stepping down, Walmart CFO stepping down. And so I don't know if this is anything in relation to the certain trial going on that has a lot to do about doing some bad things to children, but I don't know. This is just speculation, but it's quite a coincidence for all these big names and big companies, CEOs, to all of a sudden be jumping ship while this is going on. That would be hell of a coincidence. Also, if you guys have any questions, I can try to address them in the chat. And it's just basically just us hanging out. I'm sorry that it's not so structured, but then again, this is exactly the purpose of this, for it not to be structured and open for just to hang out, share stories, and talk to each other. And if no one is interested, I guess I can always share a story with you, and then we'll let that be for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Judy Carroll on. She's from Australia, and the show will actually begin at 9 p.m. Central Time, because she will be coming in live from Australia, and she'll be talking about the Zetas, basically those type of gray ETs. And so I'm looking forward to talking to her. I think she has written several books. I don't remember all of them, but one was something like Human by Day, Zeta by Night, something like that. But I'll know more tomorrow. Sorry, I don't have it with me right now. Okay, who do we have here? All right. So we have those that had gotten a reading. Sandra, welcome. Labels, welcome as well. Joanne, Beth, Abby, Alba, Lauren, and there's Mike and Dan. And Natalie. Hi, Natalie. Astrology. Natalie says, "What about astrology reading? If I can find someone that can do an astrology reading in sort of a quicker way, because it's from what I understand, it details quite a lot to be taken on. So for a show to be fully encompassed and only to be around one person would be generally boring for people. So that's why I have Sally on to just do some quick readings, and I think we got a good 7, 8 people in, if not more. I didn't keep count, and so I don't know how an astrology reading would go. Plus, I haven't talked to anyone that necessarily does astrology mainly. Some of the guests that I've had on, they did astrology as on the side, or it was one of the many disciplines, I guess, that they concentrate on, or things that they go into, but not to where they just do astrology mainly. And of course, I have people under the contact ufohub@gmail.com. You can email me. I had some people already email me some other guests that they were hoping that I could reach out and get them on. And of course, I try my best to do that. So if you have any suggestions, please email it to me at contactufohub@gmail.com. So then that way I can just add them to the queue and interact with them. Because right now, amongst all these other things, I have to then reach out to the people myself, see if I get an email back and wait for confirmation, or they can't on the day, and then switch things around. And also, which reminds me, switching things around, because of these different dates and times that will be coming up. I'm going to have them on different, I guess, different times and dates because of the different time zones. So I had Gerard not that long ago. He was from the Netherlands. Then now I'm going to have Judy from Australia. So they're all vastly different. So I always try to match it. So for a while there might be an interview on Thursday, one on Friday, sometimes later that day, sometimes maybe earlier. It depends. So just kind of look out. I'll always try to pre-schedule them so you can see them on the playlist, which is just called live streams, and you'll see all the interviews that I have confirmed that will be coming up. So you can set a reminder to make sure you don't miss it live. Because usually you can always just, while the interview is going on, listen to the interview on Telegram, but also on Telegram when it's time for Q&A, you can just join Telegram and ask the question directly. So whatever is on your heart, on your mind, you can talk to the guest. So and hopefully, if they're important enough person for you to want to talk to, it's at least not that big enough of a queue for you have to worry about that you might not get a chance to do that. Most likely, if most people that have logged into Telegram to ask a question, I always made sure that I went through that. I think only one time it was just so many questions coming in that I had to stop after a while, because the guest had a predetermined time of how long we can go on. But usually I always try to get to everybody. Rayfield, hello. Rayfield, Glendale, California, welcome. Pai Kin, welcome as well. Yeah, it's I guess it's just gonna be a quiet Wednesday. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Telegram is still open if you guys would want to log in. Otherwise, maybe in a few minutes here, I'll just end the stream and come back on Thursday with Judy talking about the Zetas. But I'm sure most of you have some stories you want to share, because I don't want to put Abby on the spot, but she had mentioned something here earlier. Because Sally did a reading for her, and she said, "It's funny you should say it that way. I have a scar in my forehead from when I died in a car crash at 33. So Abby, I don't want to put you on the spot. That story you could tell us about. Just download Telegram or on your computer or your phone, and the link for the UFO Hub Telegram group is in the description below as well. Join it, and you can talk to me. Dan is from Canada. Welcome as well. I know Fab was on earlier today because I tried to log into Telegram to chat with people and just have them talk to me, because it's funny, most people always want to talk to me when I don't have the time, but when I have the time, they usually are not on or they don't have the time. So I guess it never really quite works out. But on those rare occasions, the group has been known to be, the Telegram group has been known to have quite a queue, and then everybody wants to chime in. Because if I know that there is more of an interest next time when Sally comes on, I could have her on longer, and that way I can plan it with her for her to stay on longer, and so then that way you guys can have a chance to submit all your name and your birthday if you want just a quick reading. Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out just recently about all these different videos that have been coming up about one I did post on Telegram regarding what seems to be, and I hope it's not CGI'd, what seems to be a bunch of light ships leaving. They call it the mass exodus, and there have been a lot more stories from different channels and different sources that I've just been trying to kind of gather, like what's going on. Usually, if there's something that I personally know about, I would just kind of let you guys know. But it's been one of these weird things. The more I concentrate on like day-to-day family things, the more and more this like UFO related things kind of take their back seat. And so I just been kind of concentrating on what I find. And even though I can't spend as much time as I used to in it, let me at least try to bring in some guests coming up that you guys can learn from. All right. I see somebody familiar in Telegram. I don't want to say the name yet, but if you would like to chat with me, just raise your hand and let me know. But what I find interesting too is that a lot of things have been slowly but surely changing with these different announcements of with these ET groups leaving or whatever. And this is the frustrating part, because a lot of you would probably understand this who've been kind of listening to me for a while. A lot of these, unless I've had my own personal experience that I can directly say, yes, this occurred and this happened, everything else is also hearsay to me as it is to you. And so I'm kind of hesitant, like, to just be like, oh wow, did you guys hear this? Wow, what a great information, all these bad ETs are leaving. It's like, I don't know 100%, unless I have a ship landing next to my house the next day or sometime in the near future, and they inform me of something and let me know exactly what is happening. I cannot confirm that. It sounds cool, but just take it, I guess, with a grain of salt. That's what I'm trying to say here. All right, I guess Israel, he found the courage to want to raise his hand and talk to me. All right, you are unmuted on my end. Unmute yourself on yours, and you can talk to me. Can you hear me, Israel? Okay, maybe not. Well, anyway, you are unmuted, so whenever you're ready, just chime in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, I can. Thank you for taking, taking my hand, I guess. I recently got introduced or, just kind of saw the Joe Rogan episode with Graham Hancock.
Mhm.
And I just wondered, like, what your cosmovision or your kind of, your cosmovision, does that, do you, how does that take into consideration this, like, possibility of a lost civilization or a more complicated history as a human species? If I just kind of wondered, just personally, Adnan, how you would, do you believe in that, or
Oh, Israel,
UFOs?
right. Are you talking about specifically what Graham Hancock is talking about?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't know too much about his work. I mean, I just saw kind of his podcast, and I just downloaded what is it, the Fingerprints of the Gods, but I guess it's like a pointing to Atlantis or an ancient society. And how would you integrate that with UFO cosmovision or world, world vision?
Well, especially because I know on what journey you're on. To be honest, other than entertainment, I don't know what other good that would bring you, and or at least information that you can take in to keep it in the back of your head, as I said a while back, because it's all information that unless you're a researcher or like heavily follow him and like or just really believe in everything he says, it doesn't immediately help. So, for example, every time people always talk to me and they're like, "Oh my God, what the aliens say or what happened?" This, I would just try to break it down. It's like, all right, well, this is what I got from it, and that's the way I can convey it to them. But when it comes to these different stories, surprise civilization, and all that, it's something we can't change. Something that unless one of those ancient civilizations, like I said, gets to you immediately, like it lands in front of you and tells you directly, it just becomes a form of entertainment. And I don't mean to like belittle it, I'm just saying that what are you going to do with it, right? That's a question I'm wanting to ask you. It's like, okay, sounds great. Like we could be an offspring from Atlantean times. Wonderful. What now? Do you see what I'm saying? It's
Well,
not like
sure.
the world will stop turning. The president will get on TV and say, it's like we are ancient Atlanteans. We can do something about it. It's like no, nothing will happen. Everything will just move forward. Nothing else will change in your life personally. What I've always liked to gather is these information from these different teachings that have come down, and that's what I can follow up on. So if they say, okay, this alien race said, we're all one, and you can find that out through meditation or X, Y, and Z. That is something I can do, right? That's something I can do and follow up on and then kind of explore on my own and find out. Whereas then somebody would tell me and say, you have ancient blood in you. I'm like, yeah, I do, but so does everyone else. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I'm kind of
Well,
more a
yeah,
practical person. So everything
and I
else would
thought,
just always be entertainment for me.
sure, and that's where I thought the overlap would be, I guess, having to do with like ancient Egypt and how they got those big old pieces of granite up there. He mentioned that possibly it had to do with like maybe psychic powers that this ancient society um, what's it called, cultivated through hallucinogens. And I've known that you've mentioned hallucinogens,
Right.
and I would think that maybe psychic powers are more like, or what would be called moving stuff with your mind would be more up your alley. And I just thought like, like, oh, here's some people that are like saying that maybe here's a researcher that's saying that maybe back in the day there was a society that built stuff with their mind, possibly, right? That would be how they would explain it. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Like, and they took psychedelics, so I just kind
Right.
of wondered, and I only have a rudimentary understanding of maybe what you believe personally, but uh, Yeah, and I just kind of wondered if there was some kind of overlap there, or if you had anything to say. But it sounds like you maybe said everything you needed to say about it.
Well, just real quick, I don't want to miss it again. My best friend, to add, my best friend Paul is watching this and decided to get on chat last time. My wife told me, "Oh, Paul was on this. He said something." I'm like, "What? I missed it." So I want to acknowledge him. So, what's up, buddy? So anyway, Israel. Sorry to digress. Well, this is, I mean, I perfectly understand what you mean, but for example, unless there was some kind of, let's say there was a book left behind somehow, right, and to trace back to this race, and they said, okay, this is how the ancient did practices, right? So for example, there was, I'm trying to remember, I think it was the Greek, and I could be mistaken, so forgive me, but just kind of take the general gist of the story. So the Greek would have this huge festival, and it would usually include a whole town or village where they would all gather and partake in this. I don't know if it's an ayahuasca trip or just more some kind of substance. I don't know exactly what. That's basically equivalent to a psychedelic. And the whole rule about it is whatever they all experienced while they were there, it was not to be talked about after. It was just to take it in, whatever you experienced, good, and move on with your life until the next year's celebration, right? And so that story, at least, at least it will leave some kind of process of like, hey, oh, okay, fine. If we want to mimic that, maybe we can do something directly like they did with close-ups and communities, right? Maybe there might be a way to get communities closer. Not sure how many different communities, that you can, involve in this, because most communities involve, families with children, and generally families do not partake in that. Now, of course, there's other communities where it's just a whole bunch of young people. They have nothing else to do, and they're like, yay, we're all, brothers and sisters. Let's all sing in, drum circle and do our thing. So I guess you can have a community in that way, right? But again, I'm not poo-pooing the idea. All I'm saying is there's so many more practical things that one can take from it, from certain things, from certain teachers, that they can immediately start doing, to start applying in their life, to where they'll get more answers, instead of just saving a story in their head and say, oh, the possibility of ancient civilization is there, but I don't know. They could have been alive from this period to that period, but I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't, personally, do I believe it? Yeah. Depending on how, however long ago it was, especially if you look at the I think it's called forbidden archaeology, and all the anomalies throughout history that general mainstream archaeology couldn't explain. So they basically kind of shoved that to the side and just made the mainstream story that's being sold to everyone else, because, you would have all these anomalies that just don't make sense. Human bone and skull during a period that humans should not have existed, right? And all, things like that. And so that, for example, you can then at least, follow up on. You're like, oh, wow, okay, where did this happen? Where did he find this? And then you can go and maybe try to dig a hole to find it yourself. So what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it's about the action. Everything that I've ever been taught, in the extra realms or this world, it's always been about the action. Go and actually physically move towards what it is that you want, right? Whether it's a want, whether it's, whatever you find interesting, if you do not act on it, if you do not move on it, it literally just becomes an idea that would just fester, either live there forever or die with you. And so for me, being, like I said, being that practical person, I try, I do love stories. I do love to watch movies, but at the end of the day, it was just there for me to kind of like maybe rest for the 2 hours, so I can actually get my butt up and then go do what I need to do physically, right? So I'm not, against entertainment, against taking in information that is very, very entertainment like. But I'm always, if you asking me directly, I'm always just, if the information does not make me put one foot forward in front of the other and then another, meaning for me to move forward and do something about it, it's usually information I try not to follow up on. Well, I mean, and how could you? Because it's like, to be honest, and I don't know, for example, like for a few years now, I had all these other things on my mind, but I love ham radio, and I've always been interested in ham radio, and just recently, this whole time, it's just been in my head the whole time, right? But only recently have I then actually begun to physically move forward, like set up the table and get the rig out and try to work on, building or maybe buying an antenna myself, and just, learning about frequencies and learning about, these different bands that ham radio operators are allowed to speak on, and then the capabilities where you can literally speak to someone, through the air from America, all the way down to France, without using the internet, all of that, it excites me, that kind of stuff. It's something that I can directly do. But the point was, it was always just only in my head. It was this great idea that was just kind of like a carrot. There was just sitting there, but nothing was ever happening. Nothing was ever moving. Only when I physically started going that direction, I started to notice a shift where my brain kicks into a different gear. So now it's from an idea, you become more like a sponge. And so, even with your idea of wanting to know more about aliens, number one, if nobody has told you this yet, and I'm sorry if I haven't yet, if you are interested in making contact, the most physical, thing you can do is to literally just go outside at a place where there's not a lot of people around, preferably a park or somewhere on the outskirts of a city where there's just not necessarily for the lights. It's mainly the density of people, and just go out there and sit down. Doesn't matter where. You don't have to meditate or anything, whatever. Just the physical act of driving somewhere and saying, I would like to see what I can see. You might see a, light zigzagging through the sky. You might see something, weird, or you might not. But the point is, you're coming back the next day, and then the next day. Yeah. And then following that up all the way to the point to where you feel like it's exhausted. And then you say, okay, what can I do next? Right? So then that way, you take more of these steps forward into doing what you can possibly do, instead of just taking in, information from books as these beautiful and exciting stories that at the end don't get you anywhere. Mm-hmm.
Now, do you believe that aliens are like extraterrestrial life forms, or from another dimension, or are they like souls? Well, I think even Dolores Cannon was talking about ETs and souls, you know what I mean? Could you give me, I don't know if that's too open-ended of a question, but could you give me a little rundown?
No, not at all. I mean, there's no more questions in chat, and I don't see anyone else wanting to hop on Telegram to talk, so why not, Well, at the end of the day, the whole idea is that we're all one, which means we're all part of this one mass, one huge energy mass, ball, whatever you want to call it, that has basically like this infinite number of frequencies that are going on at the same time, right? And so whatever is already created, whatever already will be, it already is. And so what's interesting about that is that, from my experience, the way I experienced it when I had my near-death experiences and some of my other psychedelic trips, was that we, as this particular section of this great infinite ball of energy, that small section, are basically playing a game of our own, to where we don't remember, we act like we don't remember who we are. And so we play these games of basically playing this physical life, which is what we're doing now, me talking to you, Israel, me, Adnan. We are these physical expressions of basically these spiritual oversouls. So you have oversoul, I have oversoul. You know, basically everything and everyone has an oversoul. That's basically the true sense of who you are. It's basically the spark, the original spark that was created by source, God, whatever you want to call it. And so all that's basically happening is that that spark is then playing games in whichever way it can possibly play. And so this group of sparks have decided to play this game on Earth for quite a while now. Now, for us, it's a long time, but on the grander scheme of things, it's just a blink of an eye. Basically, to play these games in this weird way to where we are re-exploring everything again, right? So, for example, emotions are nothing new, but an emotion from your perspective, an emotion from my perspective, and all the other 7 billion people's perspective, that is a brand new and exciting thing that can be re-explored. Now, going back to what I said, that actually on different levels already exists, right? But what we're doing is we're playing this game to where by revisiting it in this new and fresh way, it appears to have a sense of newness. That it's something fresh, something new, something never explored before. You know, so basically from childhood, being born, getting reacquainted with fears and love and emotions and temperature and people and all this other stuff. You know, basically all the things that already exist in a very limited way, re-exploring them again on our dimension, in our sense. So basically, you can say. The one of the interesting things that was so weird and really difficult to really get used to is that we're all already know what we're doing. We come down with this specific plan of what we want to do, but what we do at the same time is then we choose to forget. So it's almost like as I used the example before, a play or a movie, right? So when you're watching. When watching a movie and you watch Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible, right? And he's gonna jump on a building or go kill this bad guy or do whatever things, right? When you're either standing outside of this cast, looking them acting it out, or if you're finally seeing the final cut of the movie, and all you see is just those bits and pieces that represent the character that Tom Cruise is playing, right? You basically, what you're seeing is that that's exactly what we're doing. And so when a lot of times when people say, why don't the aliens come down and help us out or stop this or stop that? Well, it's no different than me telling you, hey, Israel, go to Tom Cruise and when he's playing the character of Mission Impossible, go in there, stop and say, don't do it, or this guy did it,
it's
right?
It's going to blow up. No, it's going to blow. Yeah.
Right. You see what I mean? They'll look at you too and they're like, yeah, dumbass, we know we're playing this game together, right? But that knowing is not known on this level. It has to be real. It has to be, an actual experience. So you cannot know what is happening. While on this higher level, we all already aware, what's going on. And so I was thinking about, I don't know, I don't want to make too many promises, but I've been thinking this for a while now. I just cannot find the darn time. But surely enough, like with everything else, something will happen to where I'll just focus, hardcore on it and get it done. But I wanted to have like some kind of like a small series, right? To where I can then explain in, I don't know how, but like have these small series to explain these different things as I had my experiences, right? To break things down. And so one of them that was perfect example was when you look at gaming, right? I don't know, do you like gaming or do you play games at all?
I'm not very familiar with it, but sorry.
Okay, well, but you're aware of games and people play them, and they play them online.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so when you look at the people, right, you have the person, the actual real person that is basically then using a created environment, whether a digital environment, using hardware components to create that environment, and then they're controlling the character, and they're running around and moving left to right, and that world that they're applying their attention to, it has limitations. It's not like the real world, but it has its own rules, right? The character can only jump so high, it can do certain things, maybe there might be some tricks, but that's as far as it will go, right? But it's somewhat based like reality. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so try to think about it in that term, in that way, because
Sure.
we are, all these things that we do, that we're playing out, especially in that sense, we're basically reflecting back to ourselves, and we're telling
Now,
ourselves what we are doing.
how do the UFOs play into this? The UFOs are the extraterrestrial. Like, how do I get? I think I understand the cosmovision work.
Right. It's the same thing. Imagine basically then, okay, so you're American, let's say you're in America, and let's assume, just for the sake of this conversation, you have somebody, whatever, in Australia, right? Or anywhere in the country, doesn't matter where, also with a computer, logging in, but now they have a different accent, they have a different culture, they do things differently than you do, they speak a different language maybe, right? They have entire different history than you do, but at the same time, you can kind of recognize that from this higher perspective. When you speak to that other person, you're aware of like, oh, you're from Europe, from Germany, or you're from this place, right? Think about aliens. Are you all right?
Yeah.
Okay, no, you were just making a whole bunch of noise back there. I just hope it sounded like you fell down or something.
I just took something out of the microwave. I'm listening.
Okay. Basically, think of aliens as people from other countries that can come and meet you in this world that we call the internet to play a game together, because there's this a shell, that there's a space where this game can be played out. But at the end of the day, that they're not your immediate neighbors, and that there's some greater differences between them and you, meaning distance wise, maybe skin color and language, culture, and all of that. Does any of that make sense?
Yes, let me ask you this. Sorry to interrupt. Are these beings, that to us, they look like they're more capable, or they have more mastery, or let's just say that they haven't forgotten so much, right? They're not playing the game of forgetting. Are they like in the eternal oversoul form, or how come, how come they're more proficient and more, it seems like, on another level where they can manipulate more, and you know what I mean?
Well, it's no different than when we constantly, especially from an American point of view, we constantly are wooing at Sweden. We're like, oh my God, Sweden has such a great economy, and, the way they do things is just so different, although they're not really that, dissimilar from us. There's this perception that they have a different understanding, right? For example, like, something that I don't know that ever really happened in the United States, but we'll see what happens. So, for example, they're taking a whole new different approach to prisoners, right? And I mean, even murderers.
Sure.
They would have these open prisons that just basically look like dorms, that then you can learn a skill, and you go out and about and have to be back at a certain time to then, back at this dorm again. And you repay to society in that way by becoming this different person, a productive member of society, right? Now that, from an American point of view, it was like, that's crazy. You're telling me the murderer that just murdered all these people, you're basically giving an apartment and saying, here, go back to school. You see what I'm saying? But from the American perspective, looking at the Swedish perspective, it's an entirely different mindset, that you could look at it and say, wow, they're a bit more mature emotionally, mentally, maybe, whatever, right? But really, they're not that dissimilar. And so now imagine those gaps being several hundred years apart, maybe sometimes thousands of years apart, And so the point here is that as this progression goes on, we learn that we constantly are shifting dimensions too. So for whatever dimension they're coming from, because there's many out there, so I can't get into any specifics, but whatever dimensions you pick, right? when they come from this different dimension that's too high, we notice that immediately, right? But something that most people haven't really thought about this, if we managed to go back in time and just go back to the 1950s and even dress up like 1950s clothing, you will not, most people probably won't believe this, but you will stand out like a sore thumb. Because we don't realize how much of different frequencies and dimensions we have been constantly been shifting. But it's such a small and gradual process to where we just know it as our history, not realizing those were all different dimensions, different vibrational dimensions that we got out of. And so
I can understand that. I think that makes sense.
So, right. And so that chain never really breaks. It's just that, when they come back from this, because they have some of, a lot of these coming back or, to these different dimensions, if they had some ancestors in our dimension, if they go back to them, for example, the Grace, I don't have the personal experience, but a book I trust very much by Courtney Brown. He's a remote viewer, and that book was kind of like my Bible for the longest time. Before I had my own experiences, he was basically talking about the same issue, well, not issue, but same occurrence that the Grace had. They would come back in time and they would meet themselves previously from several hundred years ago. But even the previous several hundred years ago, they were still too far advanced enough to know when they saw a future self. So it was kind of like this awkward thing, like, hey, hello, and then they would just move on. They wouldn't like try to interact with each other too much, because they all know where they come from and they all know where the other ones are going. So there was no point of trying to be like, oh my God, you're from the future, let's hug and let's talk and all this other stuff that humans think they would do, right? And so it happens.
And then would you be able, and I'm sorry, could you give me a spelling on Courtney Brown? And would you be able to kind of rephrase that? Because it was a little bit hard for me. I was paying full attention, but it was hard for me to follow about the Grays and if they saw the futures. Yeah.
So Brown is Brown. Courtney is Courtney. Courtney, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And he wrote A Cosmic Voyage and Cosmic Explorers. There's 2 books. I think he might have written more.
I got it. Cosmic Explorers, right. Scientific Remote Viewing. Yep, I got it.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So the Grays specifically, and doesn't matter who you really talk to, they'll come back to you in the same way, whether it's channeled information by many of these different alien races or humans that have interactions, will all come back, no matter how much research or knowledge, I was able to find. It all comes back to this one simple aspect. The Grays are basically a version of ourselves, but from a different dimension. And so basically, what had happened is that, from my understanding, whereas in the same issues that were going on that we have on Earth now, trying to keep the planet clean and all this other stuff, if I'm remembering correctly, and I hope I'm not giving you wrong information, I hope you go back and look this up, but just for the sake of conversation, I'm going to stick with it. We would always look at a problem and try to clean it up. From their perspective on that other dimension, as the version of humans that they were, they basically adapted themselves to whatever problems they had, but they adapted their physical bodies. And so instead of like, let's say, clean up a nuclear mess, they kind of genetically modified their bodies to be able to take more radiation on. Right? Or, and so on. So whatever. I mean, alternate universes, different shit happens. And so the point was they kept doing that till they basically genetically modified and basically they modified themselves out of existence to where they lost the ability to procreate in the sense that we do. And so that's why they have a very similar look, to us, but everything is more modified and genetically changed. Bigger eyes, smaller bodies, and skin color, tone, all of that, the loss of reproductive systems and all of that has changed. And so the whole point then was for them to basically the idea was, well, we're dying out. There's no more genetic material in the universe that they are in. But they say, but there's other humans in other dimensions. And so the whole idea was that they crossed over to our dimension in this particular timeline to then basically and this is where it's very controversial, I'm on the side of through agreement with the higher souls of all these different people that are born into to, basically do these different hybridization programs. Now those haven't been pleasant, and even a lot of the information that I was finding before and after it, they flat out admitted too. They said, they basically bred out the emotional human part. So, you would have like weird things like, when people get abducted and they're being stared at by these big heads and these big eyes, and they would scream, they would just kind of look at them like, why are you screaming? They would not, they couldn't relate anymore. They couldn't understand exactly what's going on. But apparently that has been, they've been working on trying to understand it more, because by working on creating a hybrid race, that they would basically then be able to continue themselves in that way. So the original strain will die out, but at least they now were able to mix themselves with new genetic material to where the original, what we know as grace, that race will not die out.
Now, is it your belief that like in between lives or something, we make an agreement with these guys to abduct us? Is that kind of what I understand? Did I understand that correctly?
Well, right. As we understand it, yes, between lives or before this life or whatever. But what's interesting, when I was on my own personal journeys, that's actually going on right now. We always think of things we always think of like progression, right? We always think of that.
Linear right. Time.
We always like,
so my oversoul... My oversoul is meeting with a gray right now, and fuck, I'm going to get abducted tonight. Right now,
your oversoul is making contracts and agreements, every second, every single time. Well, because the whole point is, you give feedback too, as the the oversoul's extension. You give feedback, and so sometimes something would happen to where it's something, let's say, brand new to you. It might be fearful, it might be loving. I mean, it doesn't matter. The whole point is, it's something different, and worth exploring from the higher perspective, because the higher perspective knows that ultimately everything's going to be just fine. But from your level, I mean, you have fears. You can die, you can get hurt, you can get cut, you can break something, you can get crushed. That's just on the pain spectrum. But then you can also love and care so much, so deeply, that it can also hurt. When you God forbid, lose a child, or lose the love of your life or another loved one. There's all these aspects of these emotions and games that we're playing. So the oversoul then would know and see, okay, there's a general if I think back on it, Bashar had a perfect example, right? Because people were asking, like, is there a specific way? He was describing it in terms like this: there's a hallway, a huge hallway that eventually has an ending, and there's all these different doors of this hallway that has like infinite amount of doors. So you can walk, skip, go backwards, go into every door, skip all the doors, whatever you want to do. The whole point is you can do however you want to do it, in this particular hallway, but go down the hallway you will.
And the hallway is our human life,
your life,
or
your path.
What's the hallway?
Correct. Yeah, your hallway is your human life, your path. So that way it's not, basically it's to say that it's not that stringent, it's not that planned out. You can, take a left turn and take a break at whatever aspect, and then new contracts and new agreements will be made, and sometimes, especially the expression of like, when people like getting closer to their 40s, having a midlife crisis, that's usually the a major shift or change, to where if you have not really been, following your true passion and living your life the way you want to live it, that would be kind of like the second to last kick in the ass, to where something will change enough with you to where you will go through all these different things to where it make you seem erratic to other people. So for example, like you'll buy cars if you're a guy, or you, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what women do during midlife crisis, but whatever, guys are into things, women, maybe somebody could chime in on chat, or to let me know. But the point is, that's the part to where you've skipped through enough in life to where, okay, at this point, if you still want to get something meaningful out of it, there's only so many more doors you have left to go through, so many more things to still be doing to where kick yourself in the butt and kick into gear now to do it. That's why people always like reinvent themselves, or they start doing something different, or they all of a sudden start traveling and they never traveled before, and whatever else you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it's just another step in your life's path.
Sure.
But it's interesting. You can, it takes. I mean, as much as I try to, I think there was one or two occasions, and they were very short, where I tried to just truly get in touch with the being that I am, and it's really weird. Honestly, it's really weird because it's almost like imagine the person you are now, and now imagine the 5-year-old Israel all of a sudden starts having emotions and feelings exactly as the whatever age you are at now Israel has. It's quite different, isn't it? If having that skip, without the context and knowledge and wisdom, it's really weird. You almost like don't know what to do with it.
You're talking about your kind of context that you've had with your oversoul?
Trying to connect with my oversoul, my higher self, it was very similar to that, because there's so much wisdom and this different understanding on this different level, to where it was just like, okay, I'm fine. I understand. I am exactly where I need to be moving forward. I need to just live my life, and whatever happens, happens, but just keep going, and I was okay with that.
Wouldn't the 35, oh, okay, that's okay, because wouldn't the 35-year-old me have so many things of value to say to the 5-year-old me, and would have the imagination to say it in a way
this
that
is what we're talking about. You're not
understandable?
connecting with ideas when you connect to yourself. You connect with full-on experiences. So, for example, I mean, I'm not trying to go there, but for the sake of this conversation, whether or not you had made love to someone before, can you imagine a 5-year-old you really understanding that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're talking about adult things, and not just necessarily advanced things that are difficult to understand. So, for example, one other part is that connection of being one, that comes into play. So now, all of a sudden, all your friends, all your family, everyone you ever known are within you. And it's pretty creepy when you start, realizing that, because like, oh my God, I am my best friend and my mom and my parents, and I'm my wife and my children and everything. You basically have created them out of this sake of playing this game. And so part of connecting with your higher self is understanding that part. And that's the part that was too much for me, where I felt like I almost went crazy. And it stopped when it stopped, so I could still have somewhat of a normal life and not just be, total wacko.
Yeah. I want to do like DMT or ayahuasca. Do you have any like practical, since you like the practical, do you have any practical directions to point?
Well, first of all, I do not condone it, do not suggest it, and do not, encourage people to do that. But if I was you...
Yeah, because I really want to. I've done mushrooms, and it was always something like I would see things, but I would cry, right? On mushrooms, I would just be real, like, I don't know, like parents or something like that. Like I would really think about, anyway, yeah, I want to try it.
Well, so again, you have to then ask yourself truly, and this is the boring part, what do you truly want to get out of it? You find excitement, right? You want to try it, but what is it that you truly want to get out of it? Because when you
I want to know.
so right, well,
It
here,
seems like a lot of
but
people
here's
are
the thing.
talking
This
to
is
beings.
right. This is what I'm trying to tell you here, and this is what I'm trying to get
Yeah.
at. So please bear with me. Whenever I talk to my friends and people that I was asking the very same question you're asking me, right? I said, what am I to expect? What am I supposed to get from this, right? And they would just kind of give me all these different stories, right? They would say, well, don't eat anything you love because it's going to taste so good that it'll never taste the same way again, and it'll just mess up the taste for you, right? I was like, oh, okay, don't eat the things I love. They said, don't do anything you love because if you love doing something and you do the same thing on these whatever psychedelics, it will be that much better to where it'll never be the same again, right? So I'm just kind of like, okay. So, and then they're like, well, you might see some funny colors, and you'll laugh a lot. And sometimes you laugh and you don't even know why. And I'm sitting there like making mental notes, like, okay, I'll be laughing, right? And so there I was, pretty much like you, asking those questions, asking of different people, and like, okay, check this, check that. They said this, they said that. Well, when it was time for me to do what I needed to do because of my mindset and where I was at, when I was ready, when I basically, the first trip, I'm trying to remember, was Salvia. Second trip ever was DMT. I had seven trips total, and each one was like separate lesson, and I was only supposed to do 7 and no more. Because I don't do like weed or anything like that, and I later on found out why. Because unlike other people, and when I first tried salvia, it was literally like the universe said, sit down and I'm going to show you how things go. Because all that bullshit, pardon my French, that they've been telling me about was just out the window, and nothing like what they explained. When I came back telling them all these stories, where I've been, what I've done, who I talked to, what I learned, they just looked at me and they're like, you must have had a bad batch. Here, try this one. It's fresher, right? You see what I'm saying? So you can literally, you can fast, you can do meditations, you can put yourself in the greatest mindset you want to put yourself in. But at the end of the day, it is truly the inner core of you. When it's ready, then you will have what you need to get out of it. Otherwise, it will just be laughs, things look funny, shapes changing around, walls start kind of bouncing back and forth, and then you get out of it, and that's it. For most people, that's how it usually is. Very few that I ever was able to talk to where they had this life-altering experience like I did, to where it just blew my mind. It was just nothing what I thought it would happen. And it's because of where I was at the time in my life. Because what I had done is I've removed myself from all my friends. I've, basically had broken off all but maybe once a week, maybe talking to my mom, contact with family, or hanging out, in general. And I basically just bought this property in the woods, and I said, what is this fucking life about? It's like I had no death wish, but I was like, I'm getting older. What else is there? Is it just go work, have a family, and die? Or is there more? What else is there? What is the sky about? What is this earth about? And so my mindset was truly entirely different going into this than some other people, because many people to this day, even my closest friends, they would tell me the exact same thing, that they would just have few experiences here and there. Well, except for, you might not have seen it. Have you seen the psychedelic experiences video I did with my friend Nathan and Rick?
No.
If you go back,
Unless, because I've heard that story. I've heard the story of the Bad Batch. That I've heard that before, and I've
right.
also
This is me. Rick, Nathan is sitting here in the studio across from me, and Rick is on Telegram, and it's basically us sharing all our experiences. And basically, we were kind of like, the three psychedelic amigos. We were everything I would do is they would either help me get it, or they would come over and we would kind of do this in this very peaceful ceremonial way about, okay, we're about to do mushrooms, so we kind of get ourselves mentally prepared, and then everybody goes off on their own, to do whatever, whether you need to lay down or walk in the woods or whatever you needed. The place where I was living in, that was the place to do. And so anyway, what I would recommend, that talk that we did, that would give you a pretty good idea about the different approaches and different experiences we all had, all three separately and all three together. And it's
I guess,
yeah. Go ahead.
Specifically, I'm asking about DMT. Is that like something like, do I go to a certain city? Do I go on Reddit? I live in a small town, and I don't have anybody that really that I know that does DMT. So
see, that's
I'm interested in a DMT trip.
Honestly, I was fortunate to have lived in this big city where I already knew a lot of people that were already connected. So I didn't have to worry about, whether or not I was going to get caught by cops or whatever. I just knew I could go to different people and be like, hey, do you have this? And they're like, sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, this show has never been for kids, and I doubt kids are up this late looking for whatever they're looking for. But the whole point is that as an adult, be responsible for your own actions. And like I always say, everything I did for myself. And if I put my life in danger, it was my life and not somebody else. So like I didn't do something stupid like, oh, let me, take the psychedelic and drive. Right. or do something where it would endanger other people. It would just affect me and only me in every way, and I would just, that would be something I always recommend to everybody. It's like, please don't be stupid and put other people's, lives in danger. You want to do something silly, do it on your own terms.
And yeah, I've been thinking about going, because I live in very rural Eastern Oregon, and I've been wanting, I'm down for some contact. Even though when I'm in the woods, I'm like, okay, this would be scary. Like, don't talk, don't. I sometimes talk to the imaginary alien, and I'm like, not right now. I'd freak out, but I don't know. Maybe I'll go into the woods and kind of with the intention, right? You were saying.
Well, again, you have to just, if you say that's what you want, you just go out and go with that intention of that's what you want and see what happens. But try not to have expectations.
Sure.
And
you're saying
an intent to walk from here to there is fine, but to then have a whole book of expectations of what's to await you once you get there, that's what I would really recommend to just stay away from.
And what mechanism by which mechanism do you think setting an intention will work? Are the aliens like telepathic and they'll know that I want to make contact with them, or you know what I mean? Or
well, see,
is it, will I be connecting to my oversoul? Will I be setting
Remember, you're again thinking about this
oversoul?
from you're thinking from human point of view here. The oversoul already sees like your next 20 years front, back, left and right, every direction possible, right? And so this is just basically you to decide how you want to walk down this hallway. This is entirely up to you. That intention is like, if you say, I would like to, simply have some contact, then just your intention is already known by you getting in your car and driving to a field and sitting there staring up at the stars. That's the intention. You don't have to sit there and go, oh man, I want to, some chant and doing all this whatever. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Your intention of doing what you're doing is the intent. And usually, whenever you do something out of excitement, is where you already connected to your higher self more closely. The higher self is always connected to you. The point is, are you always listening? That's what I mean with the higher self connection.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cook myself some dinner because I'm starving from work, and I'm gonna go for a drive in the woods, brother. I'm gonna go with an intention. So
what else you got to lose? Because otherwise, if you sit at your house and watch TV, it's like, did you follow your higher self? You see what I'm saying?
All right, brother. Sounds good. Appreciate your words. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for tuning in and chatting with me. I thank you for taking the time. So, and it's about
Oh, no,
time for
it's
me to
my
make a quits too. So, but thanks again. I hope to
my
talk to you again soon.
Oh, you bet. My pleasure, my treat. I mean, I appreciate and take advantage of people who give so freely of their knowledge and their time like you do. So appreciate it, brother. You have a good night.
Thank you. You too. You take care. All right. Okay, that was Israel. All right. Well, so looks like you guys been chatting. Blue Omni joined the chat. Welcome. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just finish up for tonight. Thank you all very much for tuning in. For those who have, just join in tomorrow. We're going to have Judy on. She will be live from Australia talking to me. I would basically start the interview at 9 p.m. Central Time. And so she will be talking about the Zetas. And she's written, I believe, 6 different books. So I hope you join in to ask her questions when the time comes. And if not, you can submit your questions using 3 asterisks and followed by your question. So that way it pops out at me a lot easier. And I hope to see you guys then. But yeah, otherwise, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. If you enjoy all the different videos, maybe not particularly this one, but any of the other ones, it will always help the channel if you are new subscriber to subscribe or like the videos, and that always helps with the algorithm. I certainly appreciate it. All right, so you guys have a good one, and I'll see you all again tomorrow. Take care.